We have Cheryl Salvo with us to talk about the CalHFA programs. My name is Tanya Todd, the head of affordable housing here at Mountain West Financial, and I am very excited to have Cheryl present to you all the various CalHFA programs and parameters. So take it away, Cheryl.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Cheryl Silva from the California Housing Finance Agency. And CalHFA, we are a state agency, and I am a state employee. And our mission is to provide financing options for low to moderate income families. We are not a lender, so the borrower does not come to us directly to get these loans. They go through our list of approved lenders. And Mountain West is an approved lender with CalHFA, and they also offer the program to brokers. So if you are a broker, Mountain West offers this program to you. Now, CalHFA is a self-sustaining state agency, so what that means is that we are not part of the budget or the general fund. So if you ever hear that there's any issues with the budget or things not being passed, that doesn't necessarily affect our program. Our loans, we make our own money, and when these loans are paid off, they go back into the pot of money to help more families. So let's go over the basic eligibility. For any of our down payment or closing cost assistance, the borrowers have to be first-time home buyers. And we'll go a little more into detail about that in a bit. We do allow non-occupant co-signers on our FHA products. We do not allow non-occupant co-borrowers. And the main difference is a co-signer only signs the note. So they're only responsible for the mortgage. They are not on the property at all. So they are not going to be on the deed, the vesting, or the purchase agreement. We have income limits. And CalHFA does not do household income for these loans. We calculate the income of the borrowers that are only on the loan. So if you go to our website, you can pull up the income limits. We have one for conventional, we have one for FHA, and we have one for MCC. You're going to look at the county and the household size, and that's going to tell you what the income limit is. And then when we are adding up income for the income limits, we're only going to be doing the actual borrower's income. So other household members that have income, we are not going to include their income. So for example, if you have a husband and wife and 2 kids and a grandparent living with them, the grandma is not going to be on the loan as a borrower, but she is going to live in the home and she gets Social Security. We're not going to count that Social Security towards the income limits since she is not going to be a borrower on the loan. Same with the cosigner. Since the cosigner is not a borrower, they are a grantor, and they are not going to be on title, we're not going to count their income for the income limits. So we do not do household income. So first-time home buyer. Everybody kind of knows that this is someone who has not owned a home in the last 3 years, but CalHFA's actual definition is no ownership interest in their primary residence in the past 3 years. So primary residence is the key word there. So if you have a borrower that may be co-signed for a family member, we're going to get their credit report, and we're going to see on there that they had mortgage interest, or a mortgage showing on their credit report. So what we're going to do is we're going to request proof that the borrower has been living somewhere else for the past 3 years. So proof would be a VOR from a property management company for the past 3 years or canceled checks. So we are going to require proof that they have been renting at a different place than the one they co-signed for. So since they had no ownership interest in their primary residence, they're still considered a first-time home buyer. Sometimes they have a mobile home. That's okay. As long as the mobile home is taxed as personal property and is not, they didn't write off any mortgage interest, so they'll show the tax bill to show that it's personal property, we do not consider that home ownership. So if it's a mobile home in a mobile home park, they will still be considered a first-time home buyer. Now, mortgage interest. Sometimes we see that they have mortgage interest on their tax returns. So we ask for the last 3 years transcripts to verify they're a first-time home buyer. And we're checking to see if there's any mortgage interest. But sometimes there is mortgage interest, and that's okay if it is not their primary residence. So for example, let's say that they had mortgage interest on there for a property that their parents owned, and they're retired, so they don't file income taxes, so they let their child write it off on the tax returns, that is okay, as long as you can prove that they have been living somewhere else for the past 3 years. Okay. Now, California is a community property state, so you can't have lived, your primary residence can't be a home that your spouse owns either. So, for example, you have a husband and wife, and the husband had bought the house before they were married, so the wife is not on the loan and she's not on title. She's still considered that she has home ownership interest because she lives in the home that her spouse owns. Okay, so she would not be a first-time home buyer because she lives in the home that her spouse owns. So when CalHFA is doing the income for the income limits, there's going to be 2 different types of income calculations happening. So there's going to be a qualifying income calculation. That is going to be done by the Mountain West underwriters. And they follow FHA and Fannie Mae guidelines to determine the DTI. And then CalHFA is going to do an income calculation to see if they are over the income limit. All right, and you're going to be following CalHFA's guidelines for that calculation. The income limit calculation and the qualifying income calculation have nothing to do with one another. Okay, they're 2 totally separate, different income calculations. For example, a full-time employee, CalHFA will take the base pay and average all of their variable income. So that is overtime, bonuses, last year plus year to date. So if your pay stub is, February 28th, we're only going to be doing a 14-month average on the variable income. All right. Now, your underwriter for the qualifying income, they're going to average way longer than that. So it can make a big difference in the difference between the qualifying income and the income for the income limit. Part-time, we take last year, year-to-date average because it's all variable income. And we will include the part-time income regardless of how long they've been employed there. So, for example, your underwriters are not going to count that income if they've only worked at the part-time job for 3 months. But if they're currently working there, CalHFA is going to calculate that income, and we're going to do a 3-month average, right? Because they've only worked there 3 months, so we can only average for 3 months. So even if you're not including part-time income in the qualifying income, CalHFA is going to include it for the income limit. Now, self-employed, we are going to take the net from the prior year and the net from a year-to-date P&L and average. Okay, so we don't add back in depreciation. We only do last year, year-to-date average. Your credit underwriter is going to average way longer than that. So that can make a huge difference. And we're asking for a year-to-date P&L, which most of the time you may not even need one of those on a typical transaction, but CalHFA is going to require it. It does not have to be an audited P&L, but it does have to be done in a professional manner and signed by the borrower. Child support and alimony. CalHFA will count it regardless of continuance. So if you have a borrower that is receiving child support but their child is 17, you're not going to count it for the qualifying income because there's not a 3-year continuance. But CalHFA is going to count it for the income limits because they're receiving it right now. 2106 expenses, we do not deduct them from the income calculation, okay? So your credit underwriter is going to follow Fannie Mae FHA guidelines and more than likely deduct it from the income for the qualifying. But for the income limit, CalHFA is not going to deduct it. Now, Social Security is the one time where our income may be lower, and that is because we do not gross it up. So any non-taxable income like Social Security, you will get to gross them up for the qualifying income, but we will not gross it up for the income limit. So things to remember here. All averages are done last year, year-to-date, not to exceed 24 months. Okay, so if it's December, it'll be a 24-month average. If it's November, it'll be a 23-month average, so on and so forth. CalHFA cannot average any prior job. So even if it's the same line of work, we're not going to average a prior job. So normally, people get a new job because they are going to make more money. Now, we are only going to take that new job going forward. So if they just got a new job 3 months ago, we're only going to be doing an average for the last 3 months. Now, your underwriter for credit qualifying, you guys are going to average way longer and average prior jobs that CalHFA is not. Okay? And we only calculate the purchasing borrower's income. Like I was saying, we do not do household income and co-signer's income. So the household members, if they're not borrowers and they're not on title, we're not going to count their income for the income limit. So eligibility, the minimum credit score for all of our programs is 640 and the maximum DTI is 45.00. We do allow manual underwriting for FHA only with a minimum credit score of 660 and the maximum DTI of 43.00. And the maximum loan limits are $424,100 or the FHA Fannie Mae maximum, whichever is less. We do require that the borrower takes homebuyer education. All right, they can do it through an in-person 8-hour course through any NeighborWorks America or HUD-approved housing counseling agency, or they can do the online 8-hour course through eHome. Now, eHome is about $125 if you go to their website to take this course. But if you use the CalHFA link on our website, it only costs $50 and there's no post-counseling required. Citizenship. CalHFA does not have specific citizenship requirements, but the state of California does. So the state of California has citizenship requirements for anybody who is receiving a state public benefit, which if they're getting CalHFA financing, that would be considered a state public benefit. You can click the link and it'll show you the checklist. Pretty much perm reses are okay. The A-series work authorization forms are okay. H-1B1 visas are okay. The one that is not okay that we see the most is the C-33 work authorization. So just make sure that they meet the citizenship requirements to receive a state public benefit. Property. We have sales price limits there posted on our website. So we have a sales price limit for our down payment assistance programs, and then we have a sales price limit for the MCC. They have to be purchasing a single-family resident or condo in California. There can only be one APN number. So even if it is a single-family residence but it has 2 APN numbers, it's not eligible for our financing. It has to be owner-occupied. We will require that the borrower buys a 1-year home warranty. So they can either use any company that they want, or they can have anybody pay for it that they want. So the seller can pay for it, the realtor can pay for it, the borrower can pay for it. We just want to make sure that they have a 1-year home warranty. The only time that they do not have to have a 1-year home warranty is if it's new construction or they are a non-first-time home buyer and they're not doing the down payment or closing cost assistance program. No portion of the property can be income producing. So with that, we have a 5-acre maximum because typically anything over 5 acres would be income producing. And we see a lot granny units, in-law quarters, converted garages, those types of things. Those are okay as long as they are zoned single family and they are for personal use only, so they cannot be rented out. So the purpose of these loans is to have people buy the home that they are going to live in. So they have to be owner-occupied. And the borrowers and all the household members have to occupy within 60 days. Now, on the title or vesting, they cannot put a non-purchasing spouse or the cosigner. So if you have a non-purchasing spouse, they cannot be on title. If they want to be on title, they have to be a borrower on the loan and meet all of our qualifications. So now that we've talked about all the requirements, let's talk about the programs. So our first one is Cal Plus. We have an FHA and a conventional. The FHA will go to 96.5 LTV and 105 CLTV. The conventional will go to 97 LTV and 105 CLTV. And that does include condos. So you can do up to a 97% on condos. Fannie Mae has a specific program for housing finance agencies. It's called the HFA Preferred Program. And it's basically the same guidelines as Home Ready, except for we have lower mortgage insurance requirements. So for a normal conventional loan, it's 35% coverage. For the Home Ready, it's 25%. For CalHFA, it's only 18% coverage for up to 97% LTV. Okay, so it's going to be the cheapest mortgage insurance around for Fannie Mae. They can do a single premium option, they can do a monthly, or they can do a split premium. Now the Cal Plus programs, whether you're doing FHA or conventional, come with ZIP. And ZIP stands for the Zero Interest Program. It's zero interest, it's no payments, so there's nothing to add to the debt ratio. The borrower has to pay it back whenever they sell the home, they refinance, or the 30 years is up, whichever comes first. It's either a 3% or a 4%. So they can choose 3% of the first mortgage loan amount or 4% in assistance. Now, the more assistance that they receive, the higher the interest rate is on the first. So if your borrower doesn't need 4% and they only need 3, then put them in the 3 so they pay a lower interest rate. My Home. This is our down payment assistance program. So the ZIP can be used for closing costs, and then you can use the My Home from the down payment. So when you combine all of these together, the borrower comes in with little to no money down. So the loan amount on these is 3.5% of the sales price or appraised value. So if you do a Cal Plus conventional with a My Home, that's 97% plus 3.5%. Okay, so you're at over 100% financing already. And then you can add the ZIP for a closing cost, 3% or 4%. Now the My Home is also deferred payments, so that means they don't have to pay it back until they sell or refinance or the 30 years is up. It's 2.5% simple interest. It can be used for down payment or closing costs. And you can combine it with any of our first mortgage products and with the ZIP, but it cannot be combined with the other down payment assistance program. So you can't do 2 down payment assistance programs. You can only do 1. And the My Home has to be in second position. So if you do a Cal Plus first with a My Home second and a ZIP third, the amount of financing for your borrower. The Extra Credit Teacher Program. This is our other down payment assistance program, and this is for teachers and staff that work in any California public school K through 12. So not preschool, not college, K through 12. And that includes charter schools, county continuation schools, or the school district, as long as it's public. So if you have one borrower that works at a school, it could be full-time or part-time, they can qualify for this down payment assistance, and it gives them a little bit more money than the My Home. So in a high-cost county, they get up to $15,000, and in a non-high-cost county, they get $7,500. Again, it's deferred payments. They can use it for down payment and or closing costs. You cannot combine it with My Home, but you typically get more assistance if you use this one. So if you have someone that works in a California public school, you want to put them in the Extra Credit Teacher Program. If they do not, then you would put them in My Home. Here's a quick scenario of how it would look for conventional and FHA for a $400,000 purchase price. You see we have the LTV on here as 96.5. The My Home is 14%. The ZIP is $15,440. We are estimating the closing cost at 4%, so the total due from the borrower is $560. On the FHA, same thing. The LTV is the 96.5. The My Home, the ZIP, total due from the borrower $290. Okay, so it makes it much more affordable for a borrower to get into a home. We also have an energy efficient mortgage program. So FHA has had this program forever, since the 70s, and they add 5% to the first mortgage loan amount to do energy efficient upgrades. And how the borrower qualifies for that is they send out what they call a HERS rater to the property. They look at the windows, the hot water heater, the air conditioning unit, all of the things eligible for energy efficient upgrades. They run it into their system where it shows if they replace the hot water heater, they save this much per month on their energy bills. So the amount that they're saving per month on their energy bills has to be more than the 5% that they are spending, adding it to the loan amount in order for them to qualify. So it's not part of the debt ratio. They just have to save more than they're spending. So CalHFA has taken this a step further, and we've added an additional 4% in energy efficient upgrades, and it's a conditional grant. So if the borrower lives in the home for 3 years, they never have to pay that 4% back. So they're going to get 9% in energy efficient upgrades for the cost of 5. All right, so they can do more upgrades and save more money per month on their energy bills. If the borrower is doing just this program, they do not have to be a first-time home buyer. But if they are combining it with any of our down payment assistance, then they have to be a first-time home buyer. The Mortgage Credit Certificate Program, this is actually not a loan. This is a credit that the borrowers will get when they file their taxes. Ours is a statewide program, and it's a 20% tax credit rate. So how this works is when a borrower files their taxes, they get to write off their mortgage interest. It's one of the benefits of being a homeowner. With this program, they're going to write off 80%. So let's say they paid $10,000 in mortgage interest. They're going to write off $8,000 in their itemized deductions. They're going to figure out what their tax liability is. So let's say in this case they owed the IRS $2,500. That's where that 20% comes into play. It's a dollar-for-dollar deduction to what they owe the IRS or their tax liability. So instead of owing the IRS $2,500, they use their $2,000 credit, and now they only owe the IRS $500. They get to use this tax credit every single year that they have the first mortgage. So if they have this mortgage for 10 years, they get to use the MCC 10 different times. It can be combined with all of our programs. You can use the MCC to help credit qualified following Fannie Mae FHA guidelines. There's a $450 fee if you're using it with a CalHFA First, or a $750 fee without a CalHFA First. Okay, so if you're using it with our first mortgages, it's $450. This is the only program that we have that's a standalone that you do not have to use with a CalHFA First mortgage. We have some forms that need to be completed. We're going to request that the borrower completes the borrower's affidavit where they're going to list the household members, and this form is 2 pages long. If they're taking advantage of the ZIP, we make them sign the ZIP interest rate disclosure, and that way they are aware that they're paying a higher interest rate to get the ZIP. And we will ask for the last 3 years of transcripts. Now, sometimes the borrower did not file taxes a certain year because they didn't have to. They weren't legally obligated to. And that's okay. If you don't have that, we want you to fill out the tax return affidavit, and then we need 3 years verification of rent. So we will take a VOR, we'll take canceled checks, and then this situation, they can have a letter that they live with family. These are the different tools and resources that we have on our website. I highly recommend that you pull up the matrix. It's a nice overview of all of our programs, and also our scenario calculator. This is where you can run it through the scenario, and it'll show you how to structure these loans. Also, we have free marketing materials that they're already pre-done and they're fillable, so you add your contact information and then you can print them out. Additional training is available. We have in-person classes. They are very detailed. It's 4 hours and they're specific dates and times. Then we have on-demand webinars. On our website, they're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you need to do the broker certification required by Mountain West. We also offer free leads. Since we are not a lender, if a borrower contacts us via our website or our 1-800 number, we send these to our preferred loan officers. Now, how to become a preferred loan officer is you have to close 6 first mortgage loans every 6 months and attend training. So our next open enrollment is going to be in June, and we're going to pull the list, and then we're going to invite the people that have closed at least 6 to be a preferred loan officer and start receiving free leads. This is where our scenario calculator is located. So it's under the lender realtor part of our website, and all the way on the left-hand side in the blue it says scenario calculator. You want to click first time home buyer, yes, and then you can plug in the information and it'll give you the results. So this is kind of how this works. You can go in, put in the information, and then the results will generate. So it's a really good tool to use, and I think Mountain West also is going to require that you run these loans through the loan scenario calculator so that you have the right loan amount. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Tanya to talk about compensation and registration process.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. What a wealth of information on all of your wonderful programs. So I'm sure many of you brokers are wondering, how is the compensation structure on this product, especially since CalHFA is setting their own interest rate. So as you can imagine, it is not lender paid payment to the broker because CalHFA is setting the rate. Instead, it's a borrower paid transaction. And the compensation is set at 2 1/4 for brokers as your maximum origination fee. And again, that is paid by the borrower. But as you saw in the examples that Cheryl showed earlier, a lot of that is covered by the ZIP. Also, Mountain West has our standard underwriting fee of $9.95. That is no different. And no other lender or broker fees, including processing, may be charged. So all of the broker compensation comes from that 2 1/4. Third-party fees are allowed. So if you do have a third-party processor, that would be allowed, but it would not be allowed if you are charging the processing fee. Pretty simple and straightforward. All right. Now, how do you reserve these loans? Because in some scenarios, in a lot of scenarios, you're going to have 3 different liens. You're going to have the CalHFA first, and you're going to have the ZIP and the My Home in second and third position. The My Home will be in second, and the ZIP will be in third. So let's talk about how you enter this into the system. First, you want to check first-time home buyer, as that will trigger other things in the system for you. And then you will set the PMI indicator in PML and Price My Loan to borrower paid monthly. And that will ensure that the conventional loan programs show up in the results. If you don't select that, then you will not have the option for the conventional CalHFA products. So that's why we say to select that indicator in PML. All right. So because, the interest rate is set for a specific period of time, we require the loans to be locked after the loan has been approved by Mountain West Underwriting Department. So you're going to register and upload the file to us, but you won't lock it until the loan has been approved by underwriting. And you'll lock that the way you do any other loan with Mountain West. After you receive approval, you can go into our system and lock the loans. And once the loans are approved, like I said, you could just go straight to PML, select them, lock them. The lock will be for 30 days, and all 3 liens or 2 liens, whatever structure you pick, will have the same expiration date. This is Mountain West's version of the CalHFA program matrix. It is in the same template that you're accustomed to seeing other Mountain West products. It's all the information that Cheryl went over with you today, just in a different format. So it's just another way for you to find the material, especially as it pertains to Mountain West. This is on your traditional website where all the program matrices are. You would just go under affordable housing and then select CalHFA. Here, you may want to write this down. This is Cheryl's contact information directly if you have any questions. Although, you can always go to your BDM, and if we can't answer the question, we'll go to Cheryl. All right, so time to take the test. You can find the test on the broker portal, or you can just go to mwfinc.com/test, and the CalHFA test is there for you. To pass, you must score 75% or higher. Again, you do need this certification before you can reserve loans in our system. The results will be emailed to you, and just send that certification to your production coordinator so we know that you're certified. And with that, we thank you for your time today.